Is the tail of the tape for tonight's light heavyweight battle between Denis, Grachev, and Chad Dawson. Dawson coming in at 35-5, 19 wins by knockout. 6'2", 175 on the nose yesterday, taking on Grachev, 19-8-1, 10 knockouts on his resume. He stands at 6 feet tall, also weighed 175. This one, Ray, is going to be exciting, and it's also worth mentioning it's a big weekend for Chad Dawson. He just found out yesterday that he will be inducted into the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame. So, wow. Can Dawson deliver another Hall of Fame performance here tonight? If so, he will bring back the green belt, which he coveted back in 2006 when he beat Tomas Adamek for the first of his 2 world titles. That would be the WBC USMBC belt, which we see sitting ringside right now with Supervisor Mike George. Somebody will be leaving home with the green tonight. Who is it going to be? This one's going to be interesting. Both guys who are veterans of the game, both guys who I think have a lot to lose really on the line. And of course for Chad Dawson, it's a case of wanting to make that comeback, who he still feels, Ray, that he's one of the best 175 pounders in the world and wants to show it here in a statement fight tonight.
This is where he has to prove it right here today. There's no tomorrow. Got to prove if he's the man still.
Now, Dawson came back from a 2.5-year layoff in June. He fought Quentin Rankin, journeyman fighter from North Carolina, and there were some signs of rust. He ate an uppercut in the middle of the fight, went down to one knee. It was a knockdown for Rankin. It was a very tough, tense moment in Foxwoods at the time. People wondering if Dawson could come back from that. But Dawson's so expertly navigated for the rest of the fight and really dominated all the other rounds where the knockdown really didn't matter. And Rankin, unfortunately for him, had points deducted for holding and also hitting after the knockdown. So Dawson won it swimmingly on the scorecards, but there was that moment in the middle there where you saw a little bit of the ring rust from someone who hasn't really been in there for a while. Yeah,
everyone thinks, you know, you did enough sparring, the ring rust is off. No, it's not like getting in that ring, getting a fight. That's how you get the ring rust off.
And like you and I mentioned on the prelim card, it's also sometimes about taking that first real hit, right, without the headgear. And you kind of get a memory of how it feels right after a few years.
Why did I come back?
Grachev in the white and gold trunks with the black trim. Dawson in the black with the gold trim. Dawson has the slight height advantage against Grachev.
These are 2 good experienced fighters. It's going to take, like earlier we said, it's going to take 1 round. With these 2 guys here, it might just take 2 rounds for them to see what each other's has.
Dawson getting a little more active here in the final minute of round number 1. Still anybody's round. There really hasn't been a ton of action thus far. And every point counts. Grachev, of course, making his 2nd appearance in New England this year. He took on Charles Foster earlier this year. Foster, a very hot prospect from New Haven in the 175-pound division. Nice straight left hand there by Dawson.
Grachev said he was going to give the pressure, but I see it's evening up. Sometimes Chad's giving it, sometimes Grachev's giving it. I love it when Chad backs him up.
Some of that head movement by Dawson we've seen throughout his career. A trademark defense that really brought him to the top of the 175-pound division in the early to mid-2000s. He really was one of the best, if not the best. And of course, could make a case at that time, a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
Oh, definitely. Definitely at that time.
Round number 1 in the books. Not a whole lot of action, Ray, but like we expect from veterans, a kind of a feeling out process as we get into the middle stage of the fight.
Definitely.
It's a tough one to score. You know, when you see a round like that, what are you looking to take away in order for you to make a decision on who wins the round?
Who did what they wanted to do in that round? You know, Chad was, Grachev said he was coming after him, but he was backing up a lot there. And Chad was laying that straight left hand.
So Dawson a little more active in that opening round, particularly toward the latter half, the last minute and a half, last 90 seconds. So on the Sucre Ray scorecard, it goes in the books as a 10-9 round for Chad Dawson, a good start for the former world champ. Very similar to how he started against Quentin Rankin. It was toward the middle of the fight where he ran into some trouble. And I think it's hard to compare those 2 fights. Rankin was a very awkward fighter. He came at awkward angles. You know, he didn't have the same pedigree as Denis Grachev has, who trained out of City Boxing in San Diego, trained with some of the better, and he's been in the ring with some of the better competition at 175. Rankin was more of a journeyman type who really hadn't been in there with anybody like Dawson's pedigree. Grachev more relaxed, more calm, doesn't really swing wild from the hips. Probably a better matchup for Dawson in that respect, where he's not facing someone who's such a wild card.
Chad's controlling this fight with his straight left hand, his straight right hand. I'm sorry, he's a lefty.
There carries with the left hand again. Dawson working that jab effectively. Nice left again on the inside.
Grachev is trying to throw that right hand with a lefty, and as you're throwing it, you're leaving yourself vulnerable for Chad's straight lefts.
Now, I know it's early, but Dawson just looks a step quicker and faster than Grachev.
He's upset probably from his last. He told me he's upset from his last fight. You know, he's happy that he won, but he wanted to give his fans and family more that what he's capable of doing. That's what he said he's going to do today.
And Rankin certainly put up a fight in that bout back in June at Foxwoods, and Dawson left with a nasty swelling over his left eye. It took some time to heal. And you could tell just in the aftermath that it shook him up a bit. You know,
yep.
the action shook him up a bit. He did get knocked down midway through the fight. Rankin probably gave him a little more than he thought at the time. I think he may have underestimated him just slightly, but not enough to where he was in any danger of losing the fight. That can be hard for a guy like Chad Dawson, who's been to the top of the mountain. You know, sometimes can it be hard, Ray, if you're fighting down a step maybe to sort of get to that level mentally?
Like I said earlier, when you fight a fighter like Chad Dawson, you have nothing to lose. Everyone already put there you're going to get the loss. So go out there and just throw to the wind and do what you got to do. Grachev is throwing his right hand. He's squaring up. I can see him getting caught with Chad's straight left hand.
Keep an eye out for it.
Headbutt there.
Dawson working that jab effectively. And certainly for at least these first 2 rounds, Ray, has kept Grachev from putting on that pressure that he talked about in the pre-fight. And there it is again.
The thing with Chad is when you see him in person, got clothes on, he looks my size. But then when I look at him in the ring, I'm like, wow, that guy's big.
He's big. 6'2", 175 pounds. It's that height and that reach that made him one of the sport's best in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, that left-hand stance. He's a beautiful lefty.
2 bouts against Bernard Hopkins. And one was that very controversial fight where where Hopkins got tossed out of the ring, landed on his shoulder.
Yep, dislocated his shoulder.
Ends up a no contest. They fought a second time, and Dawson dominated. And Dawson, of course, 2 big wins over Glenn Johnson, the Road Warrior. And 2 wins over Antonio Tarver, classic.
Yes. I met both guys, Tarver and Glenn, before. Tarver was like, hey, you want to be a sparring partner? I only weigh 140. I don't want to spar with you. He goes, you look big. I said, yeah, right now I'm 187. But I fight at 140.
Yeah, thanks but no thanks for the offer. 2 rounds in the books here from the Connecticut Convention Center. We are live on UFC Fight Pass. Michael Parenti joined by Sucre Ray Oliveira, bringing you all the action from downtown Hartford. And so far the pace really hasn't picked up. Dawson's doing a nice job, I would say, Ray, of just controlling the action.
He's controlling it real well with that. His right jab and his straight left come right down the pipe. Every time Grachev throws his straight right, he brings his right foot with him and squares off a little bit. So Chad has just put that jab on him. He's getting his range, and then boom, there goes his left hand.
And certainly there is going to be a point in the fight where if Grachev doesn't pick up some of the pace, he's going to continue to give away rounds to Dawson and fall into a hole that is possibly too big to deep out of. Now, Grachev has shown knockout power and the ability to rally late in fights, so there's always that opportunity and that option on the table. But against a seasoned veteran like Chad Dawson, you just don't want to fall too deep.
Chad has only been stopped 1 time,
right,
I believe, in his career by G.O.D.
And that was about, if you remember, Ray, where he dropped down to 168. And a lot of people argued that he really wasn't the same after that.
He shouldn't have dropped down. He took it for the money. I would.
It's Andre Dawson. It's a shot at a world title. Marquee fight. Hard to say no. Really impossible to say no to that kind of bout. Dawson now working with that straight left hand. Oh, Grachev slips on the jab. Very dangerous the way he landed. Could have twisted an ankle there. But it appears to be okay. Grabbed hold of the rope for a little bit of leverage. Grachev back to his feet. Action continues in round number 3. We're live from the Connecticut Convention Center in downtown Hartford. And we're live on UFC Fight Pass, the first of 3 major events on the network for CES Boxing throughout the rest of 2019. And this one's been as good as advertised. Dawson, nice job there.
Great left.
Side steps, nice angle by Dawson to land that left. Showing off that boxing, that champion pedigree, as the nickname used to be, right? Champion breed.
Trip also.
It's a jab by Grachev, but Dawson tripped on the ropes and maybe on that ring bumper, so no knockdown. But both players have incidentally hit the deck in this round, neither on knockdowns. Minute and a half to go. Dawson doing, again, a nice job just controlling the pace, fighting his fight thus far. And it really wasn't that way early on against Quentin Rankin in his last bout. Rankin really was an aggressor to some degree.
Yeah, when you get a fight like Chad has come back since first time, been out for 2.5 years, you want to put the pressure on your first fight back to let them wake up.
And certainly Dawson got that wake-up call in that fight when he got knocked down in the 4th round and then just went on to dominate from that point forward, really showing that veteran savvy, the ring generalship that we've grown accustomed to seeing from a fighter like that Chad Dawson.
The more Chad fights, the more confident he feels in himself.
Nice blow to the body by Dawson. Grachev gets off the ropes, tries to land a right. Grachev really hasn't landed anything of consequence in these first 3 rounds.
They're stepping on each other's feet. When you always fight a left, you always trip over their feet. You can see that happen a lot right now in this round.
Dawson just buying his time. 30 seconds to go in round number 3 of his scheduled 8. This is our main event for the vacant WBC USNBC, the light heavyweight title. Right now, Dawson in control. Trying to add more hardware to the collection. That collection includes the WBC World title, and of course an IBO World title and IBF World Championship as well. So Dawson has the belts, he's had the hardware, and now looking to make his climb back to the top of the light heavyweight division. As you and I talked about, Ray, it's a wide open division. It can still be up for grabs if Dawson can get some wins under his belt.
Yes.
And just make that push. Nice combination there. Dawson's starting to pick up. Feels like he's warming up a bit here, Ray, as we go into this 4th round. We're really seeing the hands a little more active as he's starting to maybe pick up on some of Grachev's tendencies.
Yes, the right side of Grachev is red. I can see him landing that left hook to the body. Right hook, I'm sorry. Keep forgetting Chad's a lefty.
Now, at this point, it would appear, if all judges see it the same way, and I know you see it the way I see it, 3 rounds to none for Chad Dawson.
Yes.
And you only have 5 rounds to go. If you're Grachev, do you have to at some point take that risk and be the aggressor? You're the shorter fighter, right? You got to be at the end of that jab, but sometimes you have to be willing in these fights to take a few shots to maybe land a few.
He has to. He's climbing that ladder. Chad's 3 steps ahead of him to get to that belt. So he has to take some challenges, and then he's going to put the pressure on and let his hands go.
The Sucre Ray scorecard says it all. 3 rounds to none for Dawson on the unofficial card. But we've been pretty accurate for the most part tonight.
Yes.
I think a few of those fights, maybe that Williams-Medina main card bout threw us for a bit of a loop, but that was a great fight. We saw some action in the co-main event with Cassius Chaney scoring the big first-round knockout, and now here's Chad Dawson in the 4th round of a scheduled 8 against Denis Grachev, now trying to pick up the pace a bit against the Russian, perhaps seeing something over those first 3 rounds that leads him to believe that he can safely and effectively ratchet it up to level 10 a bit maybe and start to be more aggressive here as we get to the midway point of this bout. Michael Parenti here.
I don't think Graf's punches are affecting Chad at all. That's why he's walking him back and landing the straight left all day.
And that could be a factor too, right, Ray? That maybe you take a few from the opponent and then you realize after a while, you know what, he can't hurt me. Is that set in? Is that mentality set in? Yeah.
Like we said before, you want to take that first punch because you want to know what they got, how you feel. He took it. This guy got nothing. I'm walking him down myself.
Not as much mustard on those shots as maybe in Grachev's heyday, but Dawson, of course, still being somewhat cautious while maintaining control of the fight, letting his hands go when necessary. Michael Parenti once again joined by Sucre Ray Oliveira, live on UFC Fight Pass from the Connecticut Convention Center in downtown Hartford. This is our main event, the vacant WBC USNBC title. Now Grachev, a little bit of pressure there. Grachev in the gold and white trunks, Dawson in the black and gold.
Dawson's doing the right thing. He's stepping to his right, and every time he's on the outside, he throws his straight left straight down the middle. When he's in the inside, he loops his left hand.
Nice right hand on that exchange by Dawson. Clearly, through the first 4 rounds, landed the better shots, landed the cleaner shots, the more effective power punches. Nice job fighting out of the corner too by Dawson. Grachev really just hasn't mounted much offense. takes him right to the chest. But at some point in this fight, if Grachev wants to compete, Ray, what's he going to have to do?
He's going to have to open up. He's going to let them hands go, like we say all the time. Let your hands go, son. You're sitting there, you're waiting and thinking. Don't think. Just let it go.
Nice 1-2 by Dawson, lands to the body, goes back upstairs. Momentarily had Grachev against the ropes. 34 seconds of round number 4. It's really been the same story through the first 3.
You can tell Chad is so relaxed in this room. He feels like he's back in it. He never left it. He got it.
Certainly looks more comfortable in this fight than he did in the comeback fight against Quentin Rankin. I think the styles just match up better for him, too.
Styles make fights.
That Rankin fight really took on a frantic pace at times, which forced Dawson to sort of circle and backpedal at times, which he didn't want to do, and it kind of forced him out of his element, but not tonight. So far, he's really just controlled it, Ray, as we said. 4 rounds in the books, looks like more of the same. We've now reached the midway point where Grachev really has to start picking up the pace here. He's got lead in those fists. We've seen Denis Grachev knock people out before. He's come off 3 wins prior to that bout with Charles Foster, so he's on a nice stretch here. We're going to see some action now from round 4, but it would really be in Grachev's best interest to kind of get going. Take a look here at the action here, Ray, from round 4.
See, he tries to put the pressure on, but as soon as he puts that pressure on, Chad just turns him and lets that left hand go to show him, son, I'm too big for you.
Dawson's done a great job, as you said, just turning, right, spinning out of danger, and sort of putting Grachev on the defensive.
Yeah.
Just when you think that he's going to be maybe mounting some offense, Dawson flips the script. He's got Grachev in the corner. He's able to land just a couple, right, score those points and pile them up. It goes a long way toward winning the rounds. And
he's pop shotting.
Yeah.
That's what we call it, pop shotting.
And it's exactly what he's done through the first 4. It's been all Chad Dawson here in this WBC US NBC title bout. Michael Parenti, Sucre Ray Oliveira, live ringside from the Connecticut Convention Center on UFC Fight Pass. And right now, Dawson in complete control, but there's always that element of the unknown from Grachev, the power that we've seen.
But Chad has such great defense. His hands up high, keeps that chin down low.
A little slippage there by Grachev, not a knockdown. Parenti just gathers everybody. Action resumes here. 2.5 to go in round 5. We'll see if Dawson, or Grachev rather, can apply some of that pressure that he promised in the pre-fight interviews. We haven't seen it yet. And a lot of that,
he's trying to pick it up this round.
And again, right, a lot of that has to do with Dawson's defense.
Yes, every time he gets in, he's getting hit. So he's like cautious. I'm getting hit every time I come in here with that jab or that straight left hand.
And Dawson's a guy that can hurt you. He's had 19 knockouts on his resume out of those 35 big victories. So it's not a guy you want to take too lightly on the way in. Nice 2-punch combo there. Grachev lands a nice overhand left there on the way out of the clinch as Dawson tried to turn out of the corner. Best shot he's probably landed all night. But
he's putting the pressure, Dawson, but he's not letting those hands go. He's waiting. He's too scared to throw because he's getting hit.
I'm sure in the back of his mind he knows that there's a possibility he can get clipped a couple times there if he tries to fight on the inside or apply the pressure. But again, when you're down in the cards, you have to do it.
Yeah, if you don't let your hands go, you lose it.
Dawson's feet tangle up with Grachev's there.
Lefty righty thing.
Once again, yeah. Just under 1.5 minutes to go in round number 5 of a scheduled 8 in our main event. Grachev now finally lands something here, and Dawson had to back through the ropes for a second. It's a weird spot for Dawson.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him on the ropes that much this round. First of all, the ropes are very loose.
Nice uppercut there by Dawson, fighting nicely off the ropes. But again, yeah, it was a weird sequence there where Dawson's rear end was through both the second and third rope. And that weird angle, all it takes is one shot. Remember Bernard Hopkins against Joe Smith Jr. In his farewell fight, got knocked out of the ring.
Yes.
35 seconds to go. Nice short left uppercut by Dawson. Stops Grachev in his tracks. I think some of that frustration, as you mentioned, setting in for Grachev. He's trying to mount some offense, but Dawson's just so smooth, landing on the way in.
Yeah, he's picking him apart. Good head move by Chad.
Yeah, big part of his defense, not just keeping the hands up, but also the head movement and the angles by Dawson. He doesn't really run into a lot of punches.
No, he's got to get back to turning around in the corner. Don't sit there.
The bell sounds for round 5. Dawson again in control. Grachev picked up the pace somewhat there, Ray, but it seems like Dawson stopped every attempt, right?
He picked up the pace on being aggressive coming forward, but not aggressive and letting the hands go. He was still, like we said earlier, he's too scared to let the hands go. He's getting caught.
And that's okay with Dawson, because if you're a Dawson, you don't mind him coming at you. You're quick enough, you're fast enough, you get out of the way, you know how to fight on the angles, you can turn. All the little things that it takes that I think maybe a lost art with some fighters is that ring generalship. And it's something, Ray, that, correct me if I'm wrong, is it something you can teach, or do you need to be somewhat born with that instinct and that ability that Dawson has?
Everybody's different. Some believe you could teach it. Some believe that you're born with it. I'm with the people that say you're born with it.
Yeah. Much like yourself, you had that ability yourself in your pro career, and you flashed it throughout several decades in what was a brilliant boxing career. Sucre Oliveira joining me here at ringside, and the Sucre scorecard really telling the story. 5 rounds to 0 for Chad Dawson, who's been in complete control. It's now starting to get to threat level orange here for
Chad
Grachev.
did say the 6th round is when he wants to pick it up. This is the 6th round. Let's see if Chad picks it up and gets him out of here.
Now, and Grachev really the one who needs to pick it up.
Yes.
But Dawson certainly wouldn't mind mixing it up if Grachev wants to get a little more aggressive. And like you said, he did predict in the pre-fight 6-round KO, or at least the late rounds. And it's going as he predicted. He said he would toy with Grachev, he would play with him for the early rounds, and then turn up the afterburners here. So we'll see if that's coming in these next couple of minutes. Nice uppercut again on the inside. Dawson fighting at some awkward angles. It's just so hard to defend it for Grachev.
Yes, great movement.
And it's those subtle movements, I think, that paint the picture of the difference between a regular fighter and a world championship, world-class fighter like Chad Dawson, right?
Yes.
It's not always just the big knockouts and the flash, but it's those just small, right, the little movements,
That's
just the
what
little
I've been trying to teach my fighters. It's small little movements you do. A lot of fighters want to pivot on every punch and throw power. You ain't got to pivot. You can pivot the hips, like Chad just did with that straight left hand.
That left rocked Grachev
hit
for a
3
bit
of them
there.
in a row. Oh, Chad just got caught.
Dawson on the receiving end of one from
Grachev.
Grachev.
He just got caught with a straight right.
And now Grachev turning up the pressure. He's got Dawson against the ropes. Right hand lands, now followed by a left. Can Dawson spin out again and go back on the offense? 1:20 to go. This is probably the best shot that Grachev has had to mount some offense. Another right hand by Grachev. Dawson landing with the left on the way out, trying to back up Grachev. Be surprised Dawson not holding a little more here.
He's not going to hold. Chad ain't going to hold, but Grachev's got to lay on him and let them punch rip. Every time he gives him the space, I don't care if it's 5-inch space, Dawson is going to let them hands go. You got to lay on him.
Well, so one thing we always kept in the back of the mind is that Grachev can punch and at any moment can turn the fight around. So
he almost did that round.
Lands another right. Much better round for Grachev, though it wouldn't take much for him to win a round or have a better round than the previous 5. No, this has clearly been his best. Final 30 seconds here as Dawson tries to mount some offense of his own. But that bell couldn't come soon enough for Dawson. Try to get the legs back a little bit.
Setting them ropes too long, that's why.
Yeah. 2 straight lefts there by Dawson.
There's no reason to get hit.
Suddenly a little bit of a war here with Grachev in this 6th round. But it appears at the moment he will survive and go on to the 7th. Another nice short left there by Dawson. Finishes much better than it was there for a few seconds, but Grachev had his moment there. And again, it's what you've seen from Grachev in the past. It's always in the back of your mind that he can turn it on one punch.
Yeah, you can turn it on. It's time to turn it on.
and no better time than the 6th. You probably, if you're Grachev's corner, would have liked to have seen it a little bit earlier, certainly, but that's probably the first round, I would say, that Grachev has won in this fight, Ray. It wouldn't be enough to win on the cards, but can it go a little bit, towards some momentum for Grachev going into these championship rounds?
We're going to see the right hand that Chad got caught with here for staying in these ropes too long. See, I don't like him staying on them ropes. He's getting unnecessary punches hit there. Like I tell my fighters, you're not a punching bag. You're the guy that's punching the bag.
Dawson, as you see toward the end there, picking up and maybe just getting his bearings back, where you saw the head movement again in the defense that's really carried him through this fight. But Grachev, by far his best round number 6.
He caught him with a right hand, Grachev there, but it's 3 minutes in there, and I seen him win in 30 seconds, Grachev.
Yeah. Sucre Oliveira, Michael Parenti joining you ringside from the Connecticut Convention Center in downtown Hartford. We're live on UFC Fight Pass. Chad Dawson fighting Denis Grachev for the vacant WBC USNBC title. And right now, Dawson in control. Landing a nice overhand right with a left hook upstairs. And we'll see if Dawson picks up the pace in these later rounds as promised, or if he just plays it cool and sticks with what works. You certainly don't want to leave an opening for a guy like Grachev who can punch.
Chad once in a while is winging his left hand and picking up his chin. If he keeps it tucked like he got it all the time under that right shoulder, he won't get hit. So now he's not staying on those ropes, he's getting off. His coach must have yelled at him.
He probably heard you on the side here saying the exact same thing, but absolutely Dawson not as privy to back up against the ropes as he was in the earlier rounds. Nice uppercut to the body by Dawson.
Dawson can't get away from that jab. He's letting him come in.
Dawson still doing a nice job circling. Grachev has to cut off the ring if he wants to have a shot here. Yep. Switching back and forth from that southpaw to right-handed stance.
That I don't like. If you're winning the fight one style, why do you want to change it?
Nice double jab by Dawson. Went upstairs. Went downstairs first and went back upstairs. Grachev just not finding a lot of openings in Dawson's defense. That's really been a big part of the story
Dawson's
tonight.
Going back to that jab now.
Yep. Left hand to the body. Dawson still active. A minute to go here in round number 7. Regaining control after a little bit of a dangerous spot in that 6th round when Grachev landed a big right and had some momentum, but not enough. It'll certainly take a lot more than that to unnerve a guy like Chad Dawson.
Yes, definitely.
Right, who's been in there in so many ring wars through the years.
Chad needs to stay tall. He's bending down to Grachev's height. And when you bend down to his height, you allow him to catch him with that right hand. Chad needs to stay tall and keep that jab in his face.
.30 seconds to go in round number 7. Dawson, nice left hand. Stops Grachev in his tracks again. Another left hand.
Beautiful right hand. Left hand.
Now Grachev follows with the right jab, or the left jab rather.
See, if you turn him with a left hook. Right hook.
Again, Dawson, just that left hand just...
He's got to come back with that right hook after that. There he goes.
It's become the weapon of choice here in the 7th round for Dawson as he punctuates another strong round here in these final seconds. And once again, in complete control of this one. You hear the hometown crowd clapping and cheering in approval of Bad Chad Dawson, the New Haven native, who appears to be, anyway, well on his way to a victory in capturing the vacant WBC USNBC title. But we have one more round to go, and it's going to have to be all or nothing right now for Grachev, right?
Definitely, definitely. He's got to let both hands go, not just that right hand, both hands. Throw your hands like you're swimming.
And Ray, you've been in fights like this, right, where it's come down to the end, and in some cases, in your end, the fight's been close. And that mentality sort of changes, right? Can you just flip that switch when you're in there?
I could.
Yeah.
I think fighters like Chad and Grachev here know it's time to switch that switch. We always had a signal with super time. Whenever he says super time, that means I stomp my feet and I'm just throwing hands.
That's the attitude that sets CompuBox records, Ray, right? And let those hands go. We'll see if Grachev can maybe channel his inner Sucre Ray and let his hands go in this 8th and final round. He's going to need to empty the tank and leave it all out there to have a shot against Bad Chad Dawson, who has been in complete control here in his Hartford homecoming. First time he's fought here in quite some time, since 2008. It was his 2nd world title defense. So, of course, a bit of history here for Dawson. And after tonight, this will officially make this where half of Dawson's fights have been in the state of Connecticut. So he came up here under the guidance of Jimmy Birchfield. He won the WBC Youth Light Heavyweight title under Jimmy Birchfield, and now is back in the ring where it all started for CES Boxing.
Yes.
And it's been quite a
Came back
homecoming.
home.
Yep, came back home to CES where it all began.
I remember years ago, Mr. B had Chad. I was training in Connecticut, getting ready for a fight. He had Chad come up for me to talk to him. I said, talk to this gentleman. I can't teach him nothing. He already knows.
Could you tell right away with a guy like Chad?
Did I what?
Could you tell right away with a guy like him that he was
Definitely.
special?
I looked at him. I saw the way he worked. It's an attitude of how you train and seeing him spot. I said, this young man has talent. There's nothing I could teach him in or out the ring.
Well, Dawson certainly carried himself well, both in and out of the ring, in life and in boxing. Multiple world titles, pound-for-pound king, and just recently elected to the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame. And hoping to punctuate that with another great weekend. Grachev, more aggressive here in this round, but Dawson's defense has just been so good throughout the night. The only hope
he's
really...
throwing, but he's taking caution.
And the only hope really, Ray, for Grachev is to catch him and then just charge, right?
Yeah.
And just let it all out and just you see what happens, and you empty the tank over those final 60 to 70 seconds. And at some point, you know, Grachev's going to have to flip that switch and try for something here, but really it's really been all Chad Dawson. And again, it's not just Grachev not being willing, it's Dawson's defense and movement preventing Grachev from being able to do that. You have to give credit to that.
That jab is keeping him off the distance. He thinks, Travis thinks he got him, then Chad's out of there.
Michael Parenti, Sucre Ray Oliveira live on UFC Fight Pass from downtown Hartford. The Connecticut Convention Center. We brought you 4 action-packed bouts. We're in the final 30 seconds of our main event. And right now, barring anything crazy, it appears that it's going to be Chad Dawson running away with this one on the scorecards here. And he lands a nice uppercut on the way out of the corner. Dawson putting on a show here. Yeah. Dawson at times putting on a clinic tonight against Denis Grachev, showing some flashes of the old bad Chad from that 2005-2006 era.
He's got a little cut on his left eye, Chad.
And you wonder with this, presumably what will be the crowning of the new WBC USNBC champion, and where this could take someone like Chad Dawson. As we mentioned, the 175-pound division, it's wide open.
Yes.
And why not Chad Dawson getting back in that door? So tonight, this one's in the wraps. This one's in the books, rather. Chad Dawson with a brilliant performance against Denis Grachev, who just came in tonight and just really, Ray, from the opening bell, just couldn't get anything going.
No, he couldn't. He said he was going to put the pressure. He attempted it, but found out that you can't put the pressure on a guy like Chad.
Well, there's Sucre Ray's unofficial scorecard. All 8 rounds to Dawson for Sucre Ray. That would be an 80-72 score. We'll see how the judges have it momentarily. But whether it's a round or 2 different, the outcome's going to be the same. It's going to be bad Chad Dawson, and he will be crowned the USNBC light heavyweight champion. And from there, the sky's the limit. Once you get back into the WBC family, there are so many opportunities for fighters. We've seen it with young fighters. We saw it with Chad Dawson when he came up in the ranks, when he won the WBC World Youth Light Heavyweight title, and that vaulted him to the next level. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from here for Chad Dawson. But tonight, a much better, much improved performance for the former 2-time world champion. And I think, Ray, safe to say that he got some of the ring rust off in the last bout in June at Foxwoods.
Definitely.
Came back tonight, looked so much sharper, he looked faster, and I think was in with an opponent who was tailor-made for his style, for what he wanted to do.
Yes, he got good 8 rounds in there. He got the box, his movement, he's getting looser in the hips. You can see his snap is there. You know, it's going to take time. The more and more he fights, the better he's going to get, but he got to get the right opponents in front of him that he could get his talent back. And CES is doing a great job, especially today with all the bouts.
All right, this one in the books. Dawson Grachev, 8 rounds. Let's send it up to Adam Palazzo for the official decision.
After 8 tough rounds, we go to the scorecard here tonight. Judge Trella scored the fight 80-72. Judge Feldman scored the fight 79-73. And Judge Ezzo scored the fight 80-72 for your winner by unanimous decision and new WBC USNBC World Champion, Chad Dawson.
So there it is, 80-72 on 2 cards, 79-73 on the 3rd for your winner, Bad Chad Dawson. And we're about to set it up ringside with Suka Ray Oliveira, who is going to interview our new champion. What a textbook performance for Bad Chad, 1-time pound-for-pound king and 2-time world champion. Let's hear what Bad Chad has to say.